Hello, and welcome to the Management Channel. In this chapter, we're going to look at HR and how they help out with work design. Our objectives here are to examine the importance of work design, to look at the complexity of job design, review some of the complications of ergonomics and environmental concerns. We want to review the tools for a methods analysis, and take a look at the methods of time and motion study. Methods of compensation are usually time-based systems, hourly wage or salary, but in some cases it might be an output-based system, such as piecework. Could be incentive systems, commission or base pay plus bonus or profit sharing. And in some cases, there's what's called knowledge-based systems, where you get paid for special skills, number of tasks able to perform, managerial skill levels, and level of expertise. So some job design factors are the act of specifying the contents and methods of jobs. That is, what will be done in the job, who will do the job, how will the job be done, and where will the job be done. The objectives are, of course, productivity, safety, some quality of work life, and is there any specialization needed? Specialization is work that concentrates on some aspect of a product or service. The advantages for management simplifies training, high productivity, low wage costs, and for employees it's low education and skill requirements to get the job with minimum responsibility and little mental effort needed. But the disadvantages are for management it's difficult to motivate quality. There is worker dissatisfaction, high turnover, maybe some disruptive tactics, and little attention to quality. For the employees, it's monotonous work, limited opportunity for advancement, little control over the work they do, and very little opportunity for self-fulfillment. In designing with teams take a variety of forms. There might be a short-term team formed to collaborate on a topic or solve a problem. But there might be long-term teams, which are self-directed teams. They're groups empowered to make certain changes in their work processes, or groups working together in production teams or project teams. The benefits of teams are there's higher quality, higher productivity, and greater work satisfaction. Some of the problems, though, some managers feel threatened by teams, and of course, there's always going to be some conflict between members that managers have to handle. The job design continuum is as job expansion increases, it increases the reliance on employees' contribution and increasing responsibility accepted by the employee. Self-directed teams are a group of empowered individuals working together to reach a common goal, organized either for long-term and or short-term objectives. To maximize effectiveness, managers should ensure those who have legitimate contributions are on the team, and they should provide management support. They should ensure they all get the necessary training, and management should endorse clear objectives and goals. There should be financial and non-financial rewards, and the supervisor has to release control to the self-directed team. What are some of the benefits of job expansion and benefits of team design? Improved quality of work life, improved job satisfaction, increased motivation amongst the employees, allows employees to accept more responsibility and thus be empowered. There's improved productivity and quality, and really big is a reduction in turnover and absenteeism. Some of the limitations, however, there's a higher capital cost. Individuals may prefer simpler jobs. There's higher wage rates for greater skills. Maybe a smaller labor pool with higher training costs. Do you know that the United States spends the least amount of time training their employees? Japan spends over 200 hours training their employees. Sweden, 170. The U.S. average is 7 hours. Let's take a look at ergonomics. What is that big word? Ergonomics is the study of the interface between man and machine, sometimes called the human factor. It includes illumination, noise, temperature, humidity, lighting, And in some organization, HR is very involved in the job design and standardization of work. So again, working conditions, temperature and humidity, illumination, safety, occupational health care. Is there proper ventilation? Is the noise loud or too much vibration? Do the employees have proper work times and work breaks? And what are the ethical conditions? Ergonomics includes 3 domains: physical, which is the repetitive movements, layout, health, safety; the cognitive, mental workload, decision making, and work stress; and organizational, the communication, teamwork, and work design. A method analysis focuses on how the task is performed. The movement of the individuals or material is done by drawing flow diagrams and process charts. Activities of human and machine and the crew activity are done on activity charts. And the body movement is done on micro-motion charts. The need for methods analysis can arise from a variety of sources. Could be due to a change in tools and equipment, maybe a change in product design or introduction of new products, could be changes in materials and procedures, or there might be governmental regulations or contractual agreements, particularly if there's a union. And we also have to look at accidents and quality problems. We want to identify the operation to be studied and gather relevant data, and then discuss the job of the operator and supervisor to get their input. Study and document how the present methods are done, analyze the job, propose some new methods with probably better trim and more efficiency, install the new methods, and then follow up implementation to ensure the improvements have been achieved as designed. So, a process analysis tool could be a flowchart, which provides a view of the big picture. Also, a time function map adds rigor and a time element. The value stream analysis extends to both customers and suppliers and is the preferred method in industry. Process charts show detail, and service blueprint focuses on the customer interactions. So looking at a process flow diagram, we look at where the information flows, for instance, customer sales representative to purchasing to the vendors, and the material flow from the vendors to receiving to the warehouse and over to the presses, which in turn conduct the business, create the product for the customer, send the notice to accounting, who sends a bill to the customer, and the product is shipped to the customer. Here we have a flow chart for a motorcycle, all the steps it goes through before it gets crated and shipped out. In this flowogram, you will see how the process goes from the product machine to the storage bins, to a machine, to another machine, to welding, to the paint shop. Very long, cumbersome, and probably some inventory in process, which is called WIP, work in process, in between stations. Moving to a cellular layout, it looks like this. You can see one continuous flow, and this is just in time, which means that you don't have the work in progress at all the different stations. It's produced as needed. Value stream mapping actually shows every step in the process from the supplier to the customer, with how many days, how long it takes at each operation, how many parts are needed, what the weekly orders are, going to the supplier, and from the customer. Process chart is used to examine the sequence of an operation by focusing on the movement of the operator or the flow of materials. Take a moment and study this. A process chart also looks like this. This is one for a hamburger assembly process at a fast food restaurant. And you can see the steps, the distance it has to travel, and all the steps in the process along with the time it takes. An activity chart shows every step and how long it takes throughout the entire process to complete In this case, an oil change and fluid check, a two-person crew bay. An operation chart shows all the steps that has to happen: reach for a bolt, grasp the bolt, move the bolt, hold the bolt, and the other steps that go alongside with it. The left hand is doing this, the right hand is doing that. This is an operation chart frequently used in manufacturing. Guidelines for selecting a job to study. Consider the jobs that have a high labor content. The jobs that are done frequently, they're unsafe, tiring, unpleasant, or noisy, and are designated as problems either by quality or processing bottlenecks. These are the important jobs that you should study first. Doing a motion study is a systematic study of the human motions used to perform an operation. Motion study principles are the guidelines for designing motion-efficient work procedures and thus altering the present process. Analysis of Thirbligs, a basic elemental motions into which a job can be broken down into simplified steps. Micromotion study is the use of motion pictures and slow motion to study motions that otherwise would be too rapid to catch and analyze. And by the use of the charts you saw, activity or process charts. In developing work methods that are motion efficient, the analyst attempts to eliminate all unnecessary motions or steps, combine activities where possible, reduce the fatigue of the worker, improve the arrangement of the workplace, improve the design of tools and equipment. Work measurement is concerned with how long it should take to complete a job, not concerned with your job content or how the job is to be completed. These are considered a given when considering work measurement. Meaningful standards to help determine labor content of items produced, the staffing needs, the cost and time estimates, the crew size and work balance, and the expected production. Also, the basis of wage incentive plans and the efficiency of your employees. What is considered standard time in work measurement? Well, it's the time it should take a qualified worker to complete a specific task working at a regular sustainable rate using given methods, tools and equipment, raw material inputs, and the workplace arrangement that they're working in. Commonly used work measurement techniques are the stopwatch, historical times, predetermined standard data, and work sampling. The stopwatch time study is used to develop a time standard based on observations of one worker taken over a number of cycles. In other words, you should probably measure it about 5 times and then divide by 5 to get the average work time. There's also standard elemental times. They're derived from the company's own historical time study data done previously. Predetermined time standards involve the use of published data on a standard elemental times chart or book. Work sampling is a technique for estimating the proportion of time that a worker or machine spends on different activities and what is the idle time in between steps. The stopwatch time method used to develop a time standard based on observation of one worker taken over a number of cycles, which we already mentioned. So the basic steps are define the task to be studied and inform the worker who will be studied. Determine the number of cycles to observe. Time the job and rate the worker's performance. Compute the standard time. Again, define the task to be studied. Divide the task into precise elements. Decide how many times to measure. Time and record the times and the rating of the performance. So you compute the average observed time by taking the sum of the times recorded to perform each element divided by the number of observations. You determine the performance rating in normal time. Normal time equals the average observed time times the performance rating factor. Add the normal times for each element to develop the total normal time for the task. Compute the standard time, which would be normal time total divided by 1 minus an allowance factor. So we have to look at rest allowances. like a personal time allowance. 4% to 7% of the total time should be set aside for restroom, water, fountain, etc. A delay allowance based on any actual delays that occur in the process, and a fatigue allowance based on our knowledge of human energy expenditure. So let's look at a time study example. Average observed time is 4 minutes. The worker's rating is 85%, and we've got an allowance factor of 13%. So it's the average observed time times the rating factor, which would be 4 minutes times 85%, or 0.85, which equals 3.4 minutes. The normal time divided by 1 minus the allowance factor would be 3.4 minutes divided by 1 minus 0.13 for 13%, which would equal 3.9 minutes. Number of cycles to observe is done by this formula. I'm going to leave that with you for a moment to study. Please pause if you need to. Observed time is done by this formula, and I'll leave that for you for a moment to observe. Then we have the normal time, assumes that a single performance rating has been made for the entire job. And the formula for that. Standard time is done this way, and I'll leave this for you to study again. Please pause if you need to. Historical times. Our standard elemental times are derived from the firm's own history of time study data for those same jobs or similar jobs. It's a file of collected, accumulated elemental times common to many jobs, which are now historical archives. Predetermined time standards involve the use of published data on standard elemental times. The MTM, or Methods Time Measurement tables, are based on extensive research of basic elemental motions and times. Work sampling is a technique for estimating the proportion of time that a worker or machine spends on different activities and includes any of the idle time. Work sampling does not require timing an activity or involve continuous observation of the activity. So here, let's take a look at salespeople. So the salesperson spends 20% of his time in person visiting, 12% of his time on telephone sales, 13% of time telephone within the firm, 20% time for travel, 17% for paperwork, lunch and personal time is 10%, and then another 8% for meetings and other items that come up during the day. Here for an assembly line, we've got startup exercise, break and lunch, dead time between tasks, unscheduled downtime, cleanup at the end of the shift, so their total productive work is probably only 67%. The average is 67 to 70% in industry. So, are you confused? Find out more about HR work design and do a Google search on the internet. There are a lot of ways used today, and they constantly are getting more creative. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.